Hi everyone, it's Caitlin from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me. So for this video, I want to show you 5 new philodendrons that I got, believe it or not, from my grocery store. You can probably see here I've got some pink princess philodendrons in front of me, spoiler alert, but I did find 3 others that I didn't expect to find while doing my regular grocery shopping. So I'm very excited to have them, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about these plants and show you what I got. So let's just get into it.
Really big plant.
Got 2 beautiful pink princess philodendrons that are in 6-inch pots. By the way, the plant size refers to the diameter of the pot that they're sold in. It's not like the size of the overall plant. So when you're shopping for plants and it says like 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, that's not how tall it is, it's the width. So don't feel bad if you didn't know that. It actually took me like a really long time before I realized what those measurements meant. I thought they meant the size of the plant. Anyway, we're like 30 seconds in, I'm already on a tangent. These pink princess philodendrons are a variety of philodendron erubescens, which, as the name would suggest, is a red type of philodendron. Erubescens shares a root with ruby, you can kind of hear it in there, erubescens, and it means red. So, and then that sens usually means like produces, or is like essence of. So it's a philodendron with like a redness to it. Philodendron erubescens pink princess is a cultivated variety of the philodendron erubescens, and it produces these bright pink variegated areas. PPPs are known for their amazing pink leaves, and the type of pink variegation on a pink princess philodendron is essentially a genetic mutation that happens at the cellular level on the leaves. It's not something that's built into the genetic code. In the same way that like people can be born with birthmarks, but if they have an identical twin, that twin might not have a birthmark in the same place. There's some things that are part of their genetic identity and some things that become part of your genetic identity after the fact, essentially. And so those types of things, the cellular mutations that happen to this plant, like on the pink leaves, is not one that is reproducible by genetic reproduction, by like breeding the plant or having the plant produce offsprings. It has to be reproduced by cloning the plant, aka by propagating it from vegetative cuttings. You can't grow these from seed. You need to chop it up and you need to keep propagating it in order to create more and more of this crop. And so now they've been introduced to tissue culture, which is just, it's the same thing as propagation. It's just an extra sterile technique where you have a much higher success rate of propagating a smaller piece of plant being mass produced in a way that they weren't a few years ago. And so as a result, supply and demand. The demand might still be high, but the supply has gotten much higher, so the price has come down a lot. And so I was able to surprisingly find 2 of these. Actually, there were a bunch of them at my grocery store. This was many weeks ago. I went to the grocery store doing my normal grocery shopping, and every time I go I usually check out the plant section a little bit, and so I went over to go look at, usually there's just like anthuriums and a couple of sad ferns and stuff like that, but one time when I went there were like 5 or 6 pink princess philodendrons, and they were just sitting out in the grocery store next to the produce. Okay, I am at the grocery store right now, and there are pink princess philodendrons here for $40. Oh my gosh. I literally can't believe it. Look at this PPP. Okay, it's been a few days, and now these are on sale for $12.99, so I think I'm gonna buy one. Have a lot of leaf shine. So these were originally listed as $39.99. They were going for $40 in the grocery store. They went on sale after the more variegated ones sold, but they did get marked down, and then what was left, the clearance ones, were the ones that didn't have that much pink. They were only $13 a piece, $12.99, which I completely couldn't believe. So I did buy 2 of them, and it's so funny because I bought these 2 that like were looking very reverted, and I thought that I would maybe start this whole series about like how long is it going to take for them to grow any pink, and I brought them home and they immediately started putting out pink leaves. So that was awesome because I thought I bought 2 plants that were very reverted, but they have bright pink leaves. So look at this one. This one has a half moon leaf, which is so amazing. And then it put out a not so pink leaf, and then after that it put out this entirely pink leaf that would have been an entirely pink leaf if it hadn't been like messed up somehow. This is such a tragedy, you guys. I don't know what I don't know what happened to this leaf. It was meant to be an entirely pink leaf. It didn't look like there was anything wrong with it when it was emerging to me. But it just wasn't a full leaf, and I never like found the rest of it. It looks like it got ripped in half or something like that. Like if you ever accidentally rip the tip off of a philodendron leaf and you're trying to help it out of the sheath when it's emerging, this is kind of what they look like, but I swear I didn't do that. Like I wouldn't lie to you about it. I don't know what happened to the tip of this leaf. So sometimes plants that are variegated, because the variegation is a cellular mutation, that part of the plant is like a little bit weaker. This is not always the case, alright? But when you think about things that have a mutation, sometimes mutations actually make things stronger, so this is a big generalization that I'm about to say. But with the variegated plants, what I've noticed is that on the ones that have the like spontaneous type of mutation that is variegation, like on Albomonstera, I've noticed that the variegated leaf tissue tends to be more susceptible to everything. It just tends to be like a little bit less healthy than the other parts of the leaves, if there are green areas. So this all pink leaf, I don't really know what went wrong with it, but it somehow doesn't really surprise me that much that it came out looking kind of weird. I don't know, but hopefully this plant does it again and produces a whole leaf next time, not this little one that looks like it got bitten off. So anyway, I need to find pots for these. These came in these like holiday wrappers, or I don't know, but it's just a little 6-inch pot in there. And I'm so excited to have them. This is the other one I have. It's definitely not as variegated, but it still looks great. I feel so lucky to have found them at my grocery store. So what that means is that they're like in circulation. You know, if a grocery store is picking up plants, they're not rare anymore. It means that major wholesale buyers are able to buy them at a price that like makes sense to a place like a grocery store. Like grocery stores have some of the lowest markup of any type of retail. So if you're looking for a PPP, just keep your eyes out. Also, what I've learned from these is that even if it appears that they're very reverted, it's possible for them to have their pink come back. And then I want to tell you about the really exciting 3 other plants that I found at the grocery store. These are a trio that I feel like usually get talked about together. So one is the philodendron white princess, and one is the philodendron white wizard, and one is the philodendron white knight. Back up, I was at the grocery store. This was a couple weeks ago, a different time from the pink princess philodendron time, and went to check the plant section as usual, and lo and behold, there are all of these green and white variegated philodendrons, and I'm like, are those what I think they are? And so I started checking the bottoms, and like this one says philodendron white wizard, and this one also says philodendron white wizard, and this one says philodendron white princess. So basically there were like a lot of these in the grocery store all together, and all of the labels were very inconsistent. So what I did was I looked at all of them and ascertained that there seemed to be 3 distinct plant types here, being all confused. So while both of these say philodendron white wizard, I believe one of them is the philodendron white knight. And there was no consistency with the labeling. So what I did was I picked one of each of the different 3 varieties that I noticed were present, and then came home and tried to ID which one was which. By the way, these were each only $17 a piece, believe it or not, which I feel like is a crazy deal, especially because these plants are in 6-inch pots. So I feel like this is a steal. I'm so excited to have these. I can't believe I found them at the grocery store. This one is the philodendron white wizard, I believe. And so the philodendron white wizard has all green. It's green and white, and it's kind of like a light green shape. I said light green shape. It's kind of like a light green color. The stems are light green. And then the philodendron white princess, which looks pretty similar, at least the ones I have, the white princess seems to look more similar, has green stems, but the little leaf sheaths have a red edge, like a little bit of a red or pink margin on the sheath of the caterpillar. So these are actually technically petiolar sheaths, not caterpillars. So a new leaf on a philodendron emerges from a leaf sheath that it develops inside of. So on philodendrons, the leaf sheath, the anatomical structure that a new leaf emerges out of, and it can be either against the stem of the previous leaf, or it can be a new shoot that actually forms that has a leaf inside of it, referred to as a caterpillar. So on this plant, because the leaf sheath is fully against the stem, the petiole of the previous leaf, the anatomically correct term for this is not caterpillar, but petiolar sheath. So on the white princess philodendron, the petiolar sheath has a red margin. So this one is probably my favorite. This is the philodendron white knight, and it's got these red stems, red and white stems, and variegation on the leaves, and the leaves are dark and shiny and a little bit rounder than the leaves on the other two plants. Everything about it is a little bit thicker than the leaves on the other two plants. So I really like the way that this one looks. All three of these plants don't have much variegation on them, especially my white princess. It's very weakly variegated, and I'm hoping as these grow, they will develop a little bit more variegation for me. Normally, you want to see the presence of variegation on the stem, and that's how you can know that there will be new variegation, and this plant has like no variegation on it. The two that were in the grocery store that looked like this plant, that had the red margins and were listed as were listed as white princess, both had very little variegation on them, so this is the one that I came home with, so I'm really hoping that it grows some new leaves that have some white. And same goes for these other two. So yeah, I would love to hear from you on whether or not you have these plants. So it seemed like when I was looking online, there seems to be the most confusion between the difference between the philodendron white knight and the philodendron white wizard. The one thing that I did find consistently was that the one that is green that has the red leaf sheaths, that one is the philodendron white princess. The other thing that I read consistently is that the white princess is a self-heading variety, as in that it doesn't want to climb or vine, but the one that I have, unless it's like extremely stretched out, the internodes are very long. That's like the space that grows between each leaf. The stems are really long, and it's looking to me like it really wants to climb up something. So it's making me think that this isn't the philodendron white princess and maybe just something else that happens to have speckles of white on it. I don't know. And then I also heard that the philodendron white knight, which I think is this one, was meant to be a vining one that wants to climb, but this one looks self-heading to me. Like it's very densely packed in and it's growing small, but maybe that's because it's kind of like a small cutting of one of these plants. I don't know. And then the white white wizard, I've said these so many times, I'm getting so confused, I'm like forgetting all words. The white wizard, I think, is also meant to be a self-heading variety, but it looks like it's growing adventitious roots, which makes me think that it wants to climb up. Although the presence of adventitious roots doesn't necessarily mean that it wants to climb. Adventitious roots, by the way, are roots that grow in weird places. That's literally what it means. Adventitious means like unexpected in the botanical context. So, when roots grow in unexpected places. Okay, so part of the reason why I couldn't track down reliable information is because there maybe isn't any about these plants. It's possible that they got introduced into the market without anybody actually filing any kind of legal claim to them, where there is some type of patent or something that defines what these plants are. And so the farthest back information I could find was on some gardening forums where somebody was describing that nobody had ever claimed these hybrids, and so they just got introduced into the market, and the exact origins and hybridization information about these plants is unknown. When we say unknown hybrid, that's because nobody has genetically sequenced these plants, or if they have, they haven't made that information available. Basically, what would have to happen in order to figure out the parentage of these plants is that they need to be genetically sequenced, and those sequences need to be compared to the genetic sequence of all of the potential parents in order to find the overlapping similarities. So it requires not just sequencing these plants, but having an archive, a library, where the genetic sequences are known of all the other philodendrons so that we can see which ones they're most similar to. So it's an ongoing process, and because these are not plants that like produce a crop that's valuable agriculturally, it's expensive to genetically sequence things, and so usually things just don't get genetically sequenced unless there's a very good reason to. So there is an answer. We can theoretically know what the hybridization and what the parents are of these different plants, but as far as I can tell right now, nobody knows. One of the reasons why there's so much confusion about plant names in the houseplant hobby is because there isn't actually an official authority who has mandated what the official name is for a lot of these plants. There are like small organizations and groups of people and plant societies and stuff like that who meet and who sort of make decisions about these things, but it's not like the FDA or something like that where they set standards for like what something is or is not. There are certain crops that do have information about them, like tomatoes. Is tomato a fruit or a vegetable? It was never actually a debate. Like, it's not like any kind of botanical question, like, oh, is it technically a fruit or a vegetable? There's no confusion, it's a fruit. But it got classified as a vegetable for agricultural, like, economic, logistical reasons having to do with import, or I don't know exactly what it is, but that's the kind of thing that starts to affect plants that has nothing to do with their biology, you know? We superimpose these ideas about plants onto them, including things like their names of different cultivars that are all very closely related. This is something that I always keep in mind when I have the impulse to want to debate like what the actual truth is about what type of plant something is or isn't. By the way, I keep seeing information about how these plants are like part of the royal court, which includes other like plants that have royal related names like the king and queen anthurium and that type of stuff. Just so you guys know that those aren't like anything biological. There isn't like a royal court of aroids that means anything. That's just like a nickname, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes any sense. Basically, there is no such thing as a royal court. So if someone is trying to sell you that, know that that's a marketing move, a smart one. So the thing that all of these plants have in common that have royal names is the fact that whoever named the hybrid was marketing savvy and they chose a name that was going to appeal to people. It's not like these plants are royalty or something like that. I don't know if I need to be saying this, but I was seeing some stuff on Reddit that makes me feel like I need to say this out loud. Anyway, this is sort of an interesting philosophical discussion in my opinion. That to everything, there is theory and there is practice. There is the concept of something and then there is the actual application, right? I was a philosophy major. My degree is in philosophy, analytic philosophy, logic. So I'm always thinking about this kind of stuff. But basically in the plant world, there is the theory side and then there's the practice side. And the theory side is biology, ecology, the real systems information about what is a plant, what is life at a cellular level and in an environmental way. How do these different systems work together to create a broader system that is all of plant life? And then there is the practice side. That is agriculture, horticulture, the actual act of growing plants and individuals' experience. And the houseplant community exists largely in this practice space where we grow a lot of plants in a lot of different conditions and have a lot of very different results. And part of what the joy is in the community, at least in my opinion, is seeing the ways that different practices result in different types of plant growth, or the same types of things, like what's not changeable regardless of where in the world you are, or what is very different from person to person. That's all in the practice side. The theory side says, this is what a leaf is made of. These are the levels of cells. The theory side is where we can know what is the actual parentage of this plant. You know, this philodendron white princess, is it actually related to the pink princess, or does it just have the same trade name? The names, white pink princess, white knight, whatever, all of that, that's on the practice side of things. This is the discussion that Romeo was having in Romeo and Juliet. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. The point being, is there something in the appellation rose, when we say the word rose, or write the word rose, or say it in any other language, is that what makes a rose, or is it the smell? There's something about the rose itself. Getting very philosophical here, but basically my point is that plant names are just names. There is some truth to what they actually are, but a lot of times in the plant hobby, there's not enough resources and money of the people who care the most to actually know the answers on the theory side. We can just have practice. We can look at things like, what does this plant look like? How does it grow? And from there, we try to extrapolate the theory. Okay, so anyway, this was the most unexpected find at the grocery store. All of these plants only cost a total of $77 before tax, which is pretty crazy, I feel like. Like a year ago, one of these plants would go for $77. I'm really, really excited that I found them, and I do hope that they get a little bit more variegated rather than less variegated as they continue to grow, but we'll see. I'll keep you updated on these plants. So yeah, I would love to hear from you on whether or not you own any of these royal philodendrons, and if I got the identification wrong, or if you have any sources that you can point me to that know a little bit more about this plant that's not just like word of mouth. Although honestly, it's not fair to dismiss all of the word of mouth stuff, because in a hobby like this one, a lot of times that's all there is for certain types of plants. I'd love to hear from you on like what kind of random stuff you found at your grocery store, or if you've ever found anything extremely unexpected at like not a normal plant shop, because I feel like it's starting to happen more and more. When I was looking this up, I saw that they've got at least the white knights and I think the white wizard at Walmart. They're selling them online, so you might want to look into that if you're trying to buy one. Even Home Depot was selling the white princess online, I saw, but I think it was like a lot more expensive. So I started to see these all around now, and so hopefully that means that if you've been on the lookout for these, you will see them everywhere too. So that is exciting news, and it's really fun when plants that are cool become more available for all. Right, Finn? Come here. Alright, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was really fun for me to make. I'm glad that I got to show you these 5 new philodendrons. I'm so excited that I got them. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you are having a fantastic week and that your plants are bringing you joy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye! Should I pot these all together?
No.
Why not?
Okay, the PPPs maybe, but like, these are technically different. Right?
So what?